Therefore, I'm extremely happy to present Estonian urban series Tauri Tuvikene, who will introduce us with new alternatives for middle-level government of housing estates in Riga and Tallinn. Please.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for the invitation here. It's a great pleasure to be in Riga and to talk about the Estonian experience in housing estates. I might not talk about everything that you are interested, but at least probably some aspects. And my experience mainly is here from my PhD work, which I did. I'm almost done with that, waiting for the Viva, the defense, in University College London. And the housing estates is part of my PhD. It's one chapter. It's not the whole PhD. And also some of the things I'm talking here are come out from a PhD and were helped by a 3-month research internship in Estonian Urban Lab as well. So my PhD research is about car parking, and it's titled Freedom to Park, and so it looks into different aspects in different places, etc., etc. And housing estate is one of the areas. So I mainly focus on car parking actually here, but I wouldn't say it's everything that this talk is relevant. So my interest is in the mid-level governing. And in previous talk, we heard a little bit about this flat owner associations or this cooperatives, or they're not necessarily cooperatives, but sort of like they're based on buildings, and the owners come together and form sort of associations. This is the way how it's often done in Estonia. It's mainly done. It's not every house has it, but it's about 2/3 or even more. And the city governing levels are, of course, the city government itself, and then there is the district government, which is is like a department of the city. It's not like elected governors or representatives. And mid-level governing is everything that is between, as I see it, everything that is between this city district and this flat owners, the city district and apartment buildings, basically. So Tallinn has 3 housing estates. The one I'm focusing on is on the below left. It's Mustamäe. It's about 66,000 inhabitants. If you add residents, if you like add all the numbers together, you will get about half of the city of Tallinn population. So of course this is the main way how people live in most of the post-Soviet countries, or still live. And the Mustamäe I'm focusing here is the oldest one. It's built from 1964 to 1972. So here you can see the Mustamäe again. It's formed of 11 micro-districts. You can see them. It's sort of surrounded these micro-districts here. And it has a city district government as well, its own elder and a board and representatives that the flat owner associations are contacting in order to do things in the courtyards, etc., etc. So this is this Mustamäe. It's also a form of regulation, a form of governing. Okay, this is still, I think, the old presentation. Okay, but anyway, as you can also see, it's actually quite beautiful. And to be a resident, I'm living there as well at the moment. I haven't lived there for long, but anyway, it's beautiful. It's a lot of flowers and people, not everywhere, but they take care of them. And buildings, okay, they are not renovated, but here you can see buildings are renovated. Some of them are fully renovated, some of them are partially renovated. Of course, they could be renovated more, and as far as I understand them, then Czech Republic would be ahead. But it's like at least partially renovated. There's about half of the building, so it's definitely more than, as it seems like it's more than in Riga. And some of the children playgrounds here, which are quite, you can see here a lot of kids playing. I'm picking up particular places where I found a lot of this kind of social activity. But what I want to say is that it's not just a bleak environment. It's actually in many parts quite nice neighborhood to live. But the problem that there is cars, and the question is what to do with those things, how to store them, and as you see, they have a nibbled place or the space away from courtyards, from grass, and well, sometimes they've gone a little bit deeper, also to the basketball grounds, and but not here in these pictures, at least. And the city, basically, this is illegal. This is not allowed, but this is not also enforced by the city, because this is so common practice, and also the city understands that, okay, if we say, no, you can't park here, then where do they go? So, of course, there's a problem here, and it's unclear how to actually deal with that. So just one point about car parking as well, that car parking is we should focus on car parking, because it's a major issue. It is there was a survey by the university I'm based now, and they asked residents what are the key concerns. So the key concern was the high utility costs, and like electricity and heating, etc. But the car parking was right next to it. It didn't lose much, just some percentage points. So it is one of the key issues for the residents, and it's for those who have car, and for those who don't have car, and the car takes some of the space that they could enjoy or use away as well. But car parking is also it's discussed in urban planning, in architecture. There's significant books. Unfortunately, this is really the old version of the PowerPoint. But anyway, there is Donald Schaub has a book on the high cost of free parking. There is books about the politics of parking. So this is something that has a lot of academic interest as well, the car parking issue, and it's related to the aspects of urban economy. It's related to sustainability, of course, how much people drive or how much people use other alternative means. It's of course related also to the freedom of mobility, the freedom to drive for many people, especially after the Soviet time. It's also related to the pleasant living environment. So each parking lot, if you measure, is about 20 square meters. If you add up all the spaces to drive, to eat, etc., etc., it's actually a really lot of land. If you think about a room in a house, in an apartment, so basically a parking lot is a room in an apartment. And if you add up all the places in the city, you will get, there's not just one space per car, there's many of them. Anyway, right, and the citizens are indeed regulating car parking themselves with the help of the city. So it has become more regulated. So you saw this in the first slides. There was this the cars nibble space away, but in some places there is also signs that says private property. It's only allowed for the residents of this building. So sort of residence regulation of car parking. Here it's more organized, it's paved, but the same way that also there is a disabled person has a parking space there. Here it's a new parking lot. This one was considered a good example by the city and by some of the residents, and it's organized by the Flat Owner Association. Just behind it is a 5-story building, and they have themselves basically renovated the land plot and paid for the parking lot as well. They pay about 50% from their own pocket, and there's competitive. They have to apply to get funding from the city, and the city would cover at the moment up to 50% of parking lot construction as well. So, but the contribution from the house, from their own funds, is really, really important. Without that, nothing would happen. So, and what I say here is that that this kind of flat owner association-based governing is actually fragmenting the land. It's taking away of the common area and making it. It's not exactly private, but sort of land belonging only for some of the residents. And here, this is a fairly common courtyard area, so it's a bit different property structure than it is in Riga, because this one is privately owned by the residents. The residents own this land and here as well. And this building even has land for a parking lot, so they can park on their own land. Whereas this land here is currently owned by the city. So it was unreformed and it was unclear, but now it's the city land. So all the common functions are there. So there's parking here, there's parking here, everywhere. And this blue plot is what the city of Tallinn has given as a zero fee rental land. So the house can use it for 15 years and exclude others from using it. But the issue is, this is actually the building I live in, and a lot of people would actually park there as well, but they can't. So it's sort of each building their own land type of logic. Okay, but this kind of change of land use is really markedly different from how some urban planners have envisioned it. And this is from the Mustamäe general plan. And the idea was that instead of having the parking lots in front of the buildings, we can have them alongside of bigger streets and use the space for the social activities, etc. But this is absolute. Even though it's in the general plan, it's not something that takes place in Mustamäe. So yeah, you can again see this ownership structures. You can't see much really, but there's the land that buildings own is around them, just a little bit, just a couple of meters around them, and then the other areas, there's courtyards everywhere. Not here actually, but the courtyards are city owned. But the housing estates are actually models of the Clarence Perry and Le Corbusier ideas of neighborhood units, and in many ways, especially if we not think in the Corbusian way, but we think more in a Perry way, then we also should pay attention to the democracy of the area. So the Clarence Perry was thinking, or imagining at least, this neighborhood unit also as a form of democracy, that the people would come, meet in the board, have civic engagement. Then it's sort of, his idea was this is a village civic cells, that the people have their first like understandings of political processes and talk to the city, etc., etc. And yes, there's many things that to be happy of the housing estates, of their mobility plans. There were, for instance, cul-de-sacs, that there's car restricting plans, and this is something that really has been lost, largely due to the quite this kind of individual level of governing. So there's, I would say, there's a lack of vision actually, but. And also capacity of the city to actually deal with that. So a lot of things that could be considered as positive parts of housing estates in the process have actually gone. So it was quite interesting to see in the first session how some of the architecture students were, again, wanted to recreate that, to recreate areas for parking and then free up the other spaces. So it's quite nice, but I mean there are a lot of problems actually to reach there. But. So yeah, the thing I'm thinking about is the mid-level governing, which is positioned between district of Mustamäe and individual buildings. So why I don't think that city is good level? It's first of all, it simply lacks financial means. So in order to the city is not capable of. It's really in trouble of mowing lawns or grass or cutting the grass. It's the residents have complained about the lack of maintenance of children playgrounds, etc., etc. So there's a sheer lack of financial means for the city. So in that sense, it doesn't seem like a potential actor. It also tends to listen some voices but forgets others. So it's about more participatory planning models as well, and to get people involved, because not everybody wants parking lots, but that's the voice that sounds the strongest at the moment. It's also too distant. Residents obviously see much more closely what happens in a residential area around them. But why not flat owner associations? First of all, it's the increasing fragmentation of space, as we see that different buildings have their own land. It's conflicting interests, and people are mainly interested in their own buildings. That means they renovate the buildings. In that sense, the flat owner association is a very good way to govern a building. It's about, I mean, they actually really renovate. They get some money from the city, etc., etc., pay from their own pockets and started to renovate them. But when it comes to the courtyard areas or the shared spaces, there is much less interest, much less action taken towards that. So in that sense, I think some form of middle level would be necessary. Whether the middle level is a group of buildings around a courtyard or is a whole micro district. But it's also a question of how should it form, or what kind of form should it take? And these are my thoughts or of directions. The one would be whether the civic engagement is representative. That means it's like a city council, or you elect members, or it's a direct form of democracy where people who are interested get involved. And the second is the form of organizing, whether we use the existing ones or we have new ones. And there's 4 types, which I would think here is the one is that we have a new level of governing. We have a new, we have a city, we have a housing estate as one of the city districts, and then we have micro districts, and then we have flat owner associations. But it's possible. Direct ones is neighborhood associations, which is something that is really popular in Estonia in the older neighborhoods, the milieu protection areas, but there's none of them in housing estates. So such could be an option, just based on voluntary work usually. It could be new boards, assemblies with city and flat owner association representatives, but it could also be formed of as and when and informal gatherings and meetings for particular tasks. And the simplest form really is just to have the phone number of the neighboring flat owner association head. But the move towards such a cooperation is really it's almost not happening. It's people, the heads they have the phone number, but when it comes to actually doing something together, it's really not done at the moment. So that's where I would like to have more action. So anyway, my time is up, and I wanted to point out the different aspects that could be covered in that way. The parking is one issue, but it could also be the places to sit, benches, the garden plots, the children playgrounds, which need some sort of more collective hand of governing than individual buildings. So I would finish here, and thank you very much.